Welcome to the presentation of a lecture from Gnostic Radio, a free public service from the Gnostic tradition of Samael Aun Weor. Gnosis is the root wisdom of all the world's great religions. Gnosis is a universal teaching of practical science, whose goal is absolute liberation from suffering and the complete development of the human being. This lecture is one of hundreds available as free downloads, podcasts, or transcriptions. Our lectures range in topic and complexity in order to address the many needs of humanity. We invite you to browse our library of lectures to find teachings that suit you. Each Saturday, Gnostic Radio broadcasts live and includes a free online classroom, allowing listeners to see images, read related scriptures, and ask questions of the speaker. To learn how to participate, visit gnosticradio.org. Gnostic Radio is a service of Glorian Publishing, a non-profit organization. The lectures and radio broadcast have been made possible by the financial support of listeners like you. Most spiritual schools recommend a donation of $10 to $20 per lecture. To make a donation, visit gnosticradio.org. Now, with heartfelt wishes for the end of suffering for all creatures, we begin the lecture. May all beings be happy.
Many times when we enter these studies, we dream of all these spiritual conquests and these bodies that we hear of. And we constantly are striving to create these other bodies that we hear of in these classes. And yet we neglect the one body that we already have. And that's really what this series is about. It's starting from your Malkut, right? From your foundation. We as seekers of this spiritual doctrine need to work with what we have in order to be able to get what we're seeking, what we're striving for. And so this series is working on that, working on building the strongest possible body that you have right now in order to be able to create those other bodies that we seek, in order to be able to prepare this body for the work that we want to do. And really, this is the gift that our being gave us, this physical body. And in order to be able to do what it is that he wants us to do, we need to make sure that it is in optimum health. And that's really what the whole goal of this series is about. The former speaker spoke about Martha, right? A lot about Martha and about what we have to do. Martha being our digestive system, our physicality. You know, we need to learn to work with all those energies that we have in order to be able to do what it is our being wants us to do. So today I'm going to talk to you about a study that I heard about that I thought was just such a wonderful example of this. And when I was in school studying holistic nutrition, the speaker came and presented these findings. And perhaps some of you are familiar with it, with her name is Sally Fallon Morell, and she works for the Weston A. Price Foundation as president, and she also has she has the book called The Cookbook that Challenges Nourishing Traditions, the cookbook that challenges politically correct nutrition and the diet dictocrats. It's a very interesting book because it really does challenge what is happening in today's society as far as nutrition goes. You know, we hear all about these fad diets and low fat is good for you, or no carbs is good for you, or too much protein is bad for you, or that fat is not good for you. And constantly we're getting bombarded by all of these messages. And we get to a point when we go, well, what's right? You know, what's the right message to listen to? And what I've been telling you all along is you need to listen to your body, right? You need to listen to what works for your body. But what I'm going to present to you today is a very interesting study in regards to traditional nourishment. If we look back to our parents and our grandparents, most of us will probably say that they were healthy, like really healthy for their age, right? I look at my parents today, and they're in their 70s, and they are more robust and active than a lot of 30-year-olds I know. Same with my grandparents. My grandparents went on till the end, really hardy, strong people. And my dad always likes to say, they don't make them like us anymore. Because it's true. If you see this man, he runs around. He just came back from a vacation and was crowned the ping pong champion at the resort. And he beat 20 and 30-year-olds, and he's over 70. How did he do that? How does he still have that vitality? It's because how they were nourished back then. The food that they ate back then was more wholesome. It wasn't as processed. It wasn't as chemicalized. It wasn't as poisoned with pesticides and chemicals, right? They knew how to eat. And now we say, oh, that's just a wives' tale that you should take cod liver oil. Oh, that's just a wives' tale that that's good for you. We just think that's like old-fashioned. Well, I'll let you be the judge of what's old-fashioned or not, but today I'm going to present to you a really interesting study that was done by Weston A. Price in the 1930s. He was a Cleveland-based dentist, and what Weston Price found was that more and more people were coming to him, and he was a dentist, so he would look at people's teeth all day, and he started seeing more cavities, more deformation of the teeth, teeth growing on top of each other, more arching, more narrowed arches in the mouth. And people were constantly having more and more problems with their dental, with their teeth. And now supposedly, when we have more fine care and more dentists and more doctors, we should be in better health, shouldn't we? I mean, that's what logic says. We should have better health. But what Weston Price was finding, the exact opposite. So not only were older people coming to him with all these problems, cavities, and the need for braces, and young people were coming to him. Younger and younger children were having these kind of issues. And so he said, there's got to be something to this, because years ago it wasn't as prevalent. So why now is this happening? Why are people having all of these problems? So what he decided to do was, he says, well, I'm going to go and take a look at isolated pockets of the world. So these pockets that have stuck to their native diet and see how their teeth are. I'm going to go and study as many of these populations as I can. And that's exactly what he did. For 10 years, he went on and he studied different people from all over the world, Alaskan Eskimos and towns in Sweden and remote villages. And so what he found was, he studied, actually, let me tell you the groups that he did. He went to these untouched places, so Swiss villages and a windswept island off the coast of Scotland. He studied traditional Eskimos, Indian tribes in Canada and the Florida Everglades, South Seas Islanders, Aborigines in Australia, Maoris in New Zealand, Peruvian and Amazonian Indians, and tribesmen in Africa. So, he did these studies in the 30s when this was still possible, right, to find all these remote villages. Now with technology, it's probably a lot harder. But what he found was that these people were sticking to their traditional diets. They were eating local foods. They didn't have any of these outside foods that were, coming into a modern society in those days. There was no like white flour, sugar, processed foods. They just ate what they raised. Okay, so he did this for a period of 10 years, going through all these societies. And so what he found, for those of you listening online, I'm on slide 5 right now. And what he found, he would go to a village and he would ask people to line up and he would do examinations of everybody's teeth, from young to old. And so what he found was, wherever he went, he found beautiful, straight teeth. Freedom from decay. He found good physique, people who were resistant to disease, just fine characteristics. Their bodies looked healthy. They looked robust. They looked vibrant. So if you look at slide number 5, this is what a normal design of face and dental arches look like when people get adequate nutrition. So you see the broad face, You see the wide mouth? You see that there's enough room for all the teeth? That's because these people received adequate nutrition. No cavities. He went to all these places and like hardly anybody had a cavity. And yet, you know, they were strong, they worked the lands, they were very robust people. So this is what a mouth should look like when it has proper nutrition. Here's some other examples on slide number 6. These are Seminole Indians that lived in the Florida Everglades. And as you can see here, again, they still have that wide face, the broad teeth, the good smiles, healthy teeth. And over, he kept finding that no matter where he went, this was the norm for people who ate traditional diets. Okay? He found that those people who ate traditional diets had at least 4 times more water-soluble vitamins, calciums, and other minerals than we do today, and at least 10 times more fat-soluble vitamins in the form of butter, eggs, shellfish, organ meats, eggs, and animal fats. Those are like all the things people tell us not to eat today, right? Don't have too many eggs, don't have too much meat, don't have too much. But this is what people were surviving on. What they didn't have was all the processed foods that were being introduced at the time. Here are some more. These were the Polynesians or the Maoris. Again, look at the broad face, slide number 7. You know, so in his book, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, he took a whole bunch of these photographs and he showed all of these examples of these 14 populations of people and what happened. And all of them had one thing in common. I mean, they had different diets. All of them, they didn't eat the same things. This was populations across the world. They had different local diets. But they all had one thing in common, and he called it the Activator X. He didn't know what it was back then, but he knew that was the one thing that everybody shared. And he now knows, people think that it's now vitamin K2. So if we look at slide number 8, he found that, you know, no matter, it was just consistently healthy bodies in whatever region he went to. And not only that, but the people were cheerful, positive, they had a positive attitude in life. So it didn't only affect their physical characteristics, but it affected how they felt, how they acted. There was no depression. You know, everybody today, nowadays, we have so much depression, and everybody's on an antidepressant or on some kind of drug. What he also noted was that most prison and asylum inmates had facial deformities indicative of prenatal deficiencies. So what that means is the people who had illnesses, there was facial structures facial deformities that were already occurring because of a lack of nutrition. In figure 10, you'll see a photo of these Alaskan Eskimo mothers. And, you know, they're rugged, they're strong, you could see they're robust, they're healthy. What he saw also in all of these populations was that all of these populations understood the need for preconceptual nutrition for both the mother and the father. That meant that they knew that what the mother ate and what the father ate would create a strong seed and a strong earth, right? The seed provided by the father and the earth being the mother's womb. They knew, all of these 14 populations knew that how the parents took care of themselves affected the result of what would be their child. Nowadays, right, we don't even think about that. People are like, oh, yeah, I'm going to have a baby, you know, and meanwhile they're eating junk food and they're not taking care of their bodies. And then they wonder why their children come out maybe not as healthy, right, with allergies, with problems, with ear infections, with all these things that are happening. So what happened was all of these populations were just eating what was native to their land, what was good for their people, and they fed their bodies. They fed their bodies to feed their future children as well. So another thing that they practiced was also the spacing of children. All of these populations understood, a lot of the tribal populations understood that in order to have the most healthy children, you needed to space the children out by at least 3 years. because that's how long it took for a mother to regain all of her vitality, all of the nutrition necessary in order to procreate and have the healthiest child possible. In some of these tribal populations, it was scorned if you had a child before those 3 years were up. So it was something that was looked down upon. Now, right, we see people having baby after baby after baby, and that's okay, it's normal. But in order to have the optimum health, they knew that you needed to wait for those 3 years. Now, if you look at slide number 10, you'll start seeing what happened to those populations that lived closely to the ones he studied, but these populations, either because of their proximity to traders or missioners, they were introduced to so-called white man's food. The processed foods, right? The sugar, refined grains, canned foods, pasteurized milk, all the devitalized fats and oils. All those things were introduced into these populations, and guess what started to happen? Cavities, tooth decay. So in these populations that were introduced to, liberal amount of sweets, to all of that, they started to see the tooth decay happening. Okay, so look at it, the rotting of the teeth, the overcrowding, you start seeing the tooth decay happening. And what happens is, not only was there tooth decay, but there was also more infectious disease and more degenerative conditions, right? Because the weakening of the body through the diet. So children who were born to parents who so-called adopted the civilized diet. Now, when I call it the civilized diet, I'm talking about all that refined foods, canned foods, pasteurized milk. What they found was that children started to have, so if the parents started to eat that civilized food, the children, the next generation, were born with overcrowded teeth. They were born with reduced immunity to disease, and they had more deformities in the bone structure. So just in one generation, this was able to be seen. So it wasn't that, at that time they thought, if races mix, they would have that. But it wasn't about races mixing. It was about what the parents ate. So if those parents adopted the diet, the modern diet, their children were born with these sorts of problems. In one generation, this happened. If we look at slide 11, you'll see a photo of the primitive Eskimos. Now, these were the Eskimos that were working near the docks closer in Alaska. And what happened was they were introduced via the ships that came in to all of this processed foods. And because it is easier to eat processed foods, it's easier to open up a can of, beans than it is to go hunt a whale, right? So a lot of people started saying, well, this is great. Let's eat this kind of food. But what you can see started happening, again, these are the Eskimos who started to adopt this way of eating, and they started to get dental decay. They started to have gum disease. They started to become more ill. Okay? Just adopting those types of food. If we look at figure 12, you'll see what happens with that first generation of children born to parents who eat like that, where the dental arch is deformed. There's not enough space in the mouth. The bones start to get more narrow. And so what happens when your bones start to narrow? You don't have enough space for all those teeth. And so the teeth start to, grow in on top of each other. They start to grow in crooked because there's not enough space. So that's what happened. The nostrils also, because of the bones becoming more narrow, the nostrils also don't have enough space to grow properly. So you'll start to see the nostril areas narrowing as well. And what does that increase? That increases a lot of sinus problems, a lot of allergies, a lot of other problems that people today have, and it's very common. Now, on slide 13, I want you to look at the difference. So if you look at these two examples, these are two native populations, okay? The boy on the left you could see his wide facial structure, right? This is the Seminole who lives in the Everglades of Florida. He has a wide, handsome face, right? Plenty of room for his dental arches. And now if you look at the modernized Seminole girl on the right, she was born to parents who actually started eating all this modern foods. Look at her narrowed face, the crowded teeth, and she had more a reduced immunity to disease. Can you see how different those two structures, facial structures, are? Right? So with just the parents adopting this, going away from their traditional foods and eating these modern foods, this is the result of what their children started to be born with. So now, are you starting to see why I'm talking to you about this? Because what we eat affects not only us, but the next generation, our children, and if we're not having children, our seed, what we're trying to create within us spiritually. How do you expect to create something good when you're not feeding your body properly? Right? We've got to start with what we have. We've got to start with makut. If you look at slide number 14, this is very interesting. This is a photo of Bill Cody's Wild West show, taken in 1910. Now, if you look at everybody's faces, everybody, all those individuals, whether they were Native or European Americans, had excellent facial structure. Okay, everybody there. Only the one person who's circled in red, he was the only one who had that narrow facial structure, right? So what you see is mostly everybody back then were fit, were hardy, were healthy. They drank, raw milk from pasture-fed cows. That was the only thing they had back then, right? So raw milk from pasture-fed cows was the norm. And that was full of the vitamins necessary. They ate their native diets. Keep a hold of him, okay? So we can see that just that one exception, and then the majority of the people, Native or European American, they had that good facial structure. So let's see. The teeth are going to tell us everything we need to know. If you want to see if somebody's healthy, look at their teeth. So if we look at this, straight teeth, right? If you have straight teeth, now I was blessed with straight teeth. My parents, neither of them, they have very strong teeth. They grew up in Europe. They ate that traditional diet. They drank milk straight from a cow. They ate their traditional foods. They followed their traditional ways. Neither of them had braces, right? But what's interesting is this, then they went through World War II, and, they had some compromised nutrition. They came to America, right, and then adopted different ways of eating as well. So what's interesting is 2 out of their 3 children didn't have braces, but my brother did have braces. So somewhere there already there was a change in their way of eating. And then also another thing was I have allergies. That's another sign of a suppressed immune system. So if we look at what straight teeth allow for plenty of room in your head for your pituitary, pineal, and hypothalamus glands. Okay? Now, does that remind you of anything spiritually speaking, right? Right there, proper development of our glands, the seat of our being, right? If you have crooked or crowded teeth, you have a compromised space for those master glands in your head. If you have straight teeth, you have a good skeletal development, good muscles. If you have crooked teeth, you have poor development, poor posture. You're easily injured. Straight teeth, you have keen eyesight and hearing because everything has enough space in there, right? If you have crooked, crowded teeth, you have poor eyesight and hearing. Straight teeth, optimal function of all your organs. Crooked teeth, you have compromised function of those organs. Straight teeth, optimistic outlook, learns easily. Crooked, crowded teeth, depression, behavior problem, learning problems. And finally, if you have straight teeth, you have a round pelvic opening, easy for childbirth. And if you have crooked, crowded teeth, guess what also gets narrow? The pelvic area. So you have difficult childbirth. So you ever see a woman and they say, she's got good child rearing hips, right? They look at them and they say, she's good for having babies. Because she has a broad hip, right? It's going to be easy for her to give birth. But now if you see somebody who's very narrow, how are you going to pop out a baby out of there? Not that easily, right? More difficulty. So, I'm not talking about if you're heavy or if you're thin. I'm talking about the bone structure, okay? You're wide-faced, wide hip. So all of these are a result of just your teeth. So imagine how much Dr. Price was able to see just by studying all of these teeth. So now thinking about yourself, are you somebody who has straight teeth? Or did you have to wear braces? Or did you have overcrowding of teeth? Think about your own health history. Is any of this true for you? Okay? Is any of this, you're looking at it and going, oh, now I get why I had that. It's because of the nutrition your parents were practicing themselves. Okay? So this is all affecting us now. If we look at slide 16, this is what the facial bones look like, right? So that's a broad, this is an example of what a good facial structure should look like. It has plenty of space. Look at the teeth. There's no overcrowding of teeth. There's enough space for the nasal cavity. There's enough space for the brain, for all the glands, for the ears, for the eyes. This is what it looks like. But now when it starts to narrow, everything starts getting squished. And that's what happens with the lack of good nutrition. Everything starts getting more narrowed. If you look at slide 17, these are all examples of teeth, of dental deformities as a result of poor nutrition. So if you see some of these that look familiar, now you know why you have it. Right? And nowadays, it seems like everybody's wearing braces, right? It seems like, there's somebody I know everywhere who has braces, even adults nowadays. And again, it's back to that nutrition. So if we look at slide 18, we're going to see what a modern and a traditional face look like. This is a photo of some African boys. And if you look at the boy on the left, that's a modern face, the narrowing of the facial structure. The boy on the right has that broad face, enough space for his teeth, for all of his organs. So the body needs high amount of minerals and vitamins A, D, and K starting in utero. In utero. So when a woman is pregnant, she needs to make sure that she is feeding her body enough vitamins A, D, and K so that her child can come out with optimum development, or what the traditional boy looks like on the right. What Weston Price showed was that with the adaptation of the modern diet, what's becoming normal is the elongated face, okay, or the boy on the left. Quite a striking difference, isn't there? Right. So if we look at slide 19, we'll see what in North America is normal facial structure. You know, these were people who were brought up on grass-fed cows, on organ meats, on seafood, on cod liver oil. Was anybody ever fed cod liver oil as a child? Your mother knew what she was doing because that really has high doses of these vitamins that we need. Right? Do you see the structure of these people's faces? They look healthy, vibrant, happy. Their teeth are well structured. Same with slide 20. These are South American children who, they don't know anything besides their native foods. That's all they have. They don't have a choice. That's what they have, right? They eat what their parents give them or their grandparents give them, and they look like healthy children. Again, it's because they received proper nourishment in utero and as a result of when they were growing up. On slide 21, you're going to see what modern children look like, okay? People, again, with the narrow faces, what happens is a lot of these people usually need braces because of the fact that their teeth don't have enough space to grow properly. But what's also interesting is that people with narrow facial structure are likely to have a harder time reproducing easily. Especially if they consumed a low-fat diet for many years or a soy-based diet. Soy actually, because of how it's been processed and all of these chemicals and actually how it reacts in our body, has a negative effect on our reproduction as a species. So interestingly enough, people nowadays think, well, I should eat a low-fat diet, right? Soy, I hear soy is good for me, so I'll eat a lot of soy. I'll drink soy milk. I'll eat a lot of tofu. Fermented soy is okay, but when you're just eating, it's in moderation, right? Not too much. But a lot of people these days are eating soy burgers, soy cheese, soy this, soy that. All of that is causing people to become more and more malnourished, okay? And the result is this narrowing of the facial structure and the narrowing of the whole body's frame. When I heard this, I'm on slide 22, and when I heard this to me just made everything click, honestly. Because what it showed was how our parents eat, how our grandparents eat affects us. If you look at, this is the impact of non-traditional diets, okay, that they had on first, second, and third generations. Say you're a first generation. Say your parents started eating, say you start eating modern diet, you're going to get dental decay, right? Now, if you have children, the second generation, what's going to happen is there's going to be a narrowing of the facial structure, malformation of the dental arches. These children suffer from more problems such as frequent infections, allergies, asthma, poor vision, lack of coordination, fatigue, behavioral problems. Okay, that's the second generation. That's if your parents had this kind of modern diet, if they moved away from the traditional diet. And by the third generation, so you have, say you're the first generation, you have children, your grandchildren will have more infertility prevalent. If we move away from these traditional diets and adapt this modern diet, which most of us have done, this is the result. So by the third generation, there's infertility in your family. And don't we see that nowadays? How many people have to go to fertility clinics these days to get pregnant? It's because their grandmother or grandfather moved away from the traditional diets and started to eat these modern diets. So if you suffer from any of these things, if you suffer from poor vision, asthma, allergies, depressed immune system, look at what your parents ate. If you're infertile or if you have problems reproducing, look at what your grandparents ate. It'll explain a lot of what happened. Now, I don't know about you, but when I heard about this, I was just like shocked, surprised, awed, because I didn't think what my grandmother would eat would affect me, per se. I mean, I do now because I've changed my whole way of thinking, right? And I've been studying this, and the more I look at it, it makes sense, doesn't it? It makes total sense. We're passing on genes. We're passing on a seed, right? And how is our seed made up? What is it made up of? It's made up of what we think, what we feel, of what we eat, of how we act. All of that creates the seed, the sperm. The womb, what our mother eats, thinks, what she does, all of that affects the child. So it just makes sense that this would be the end result. And if we look around us in modern society, this is the norm. Illness is the norm, right? Because we've moved away from traditional diets. We've moved away from what our families, our grandparents, our great-grandparents knew to be right. And so as a result, we're suffering these consequences. The good news is, there's good news to this. The good news is we can change this. We can reverse this. It might not happen in one generation. It might take a couple of generations to reverse this, but it is possible to reverse this. So if you see that you're one of these people who has these illnesses or this sterility, it could be reversed by adopting better eating habits. Okay? So, for example, Sally Fallon, she wrote that, her daughters had No, was it? Yeah, she said that her daughters, she had straight teeth, but her daughters had weak eyesight. You know, they had they had issues. So what she did was, by eating healthier, you know, she was able to make it so that by the children eating healthier, they were helping to reverse it so that when they had children, hopefully they wouldn't continue this degeneration of the body. So there is a way to regenerate the body. And that's the whole point, that's why we're all here, right? We're here for spiritual regeneration. But what I'm telling you is that regeneration needs to start with what you have right now as well. You cannot regenerate your spirit if your body is falling apart, your temple is falling apart, right? The only thing we have to work with right now is this physical body in order to take the step to those superior bodies. So what I'm saying is we need to make sure that how we're caring for our body, how we are regenerating our body is in a positive way. So you know all the previous lectures we did about what's good and what's not so good for you to eat? This is building on that. And if you missed those lectures, you could get them on gnosticradio.org, Healthy Spirituality. Because really, that's what this is about. I'm here, you know, by the grace of God, teaching you this because I saw how important it is in my own body. I saw the degeneration happening within me, and I needed to change it. And that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to reverse it within myself so that I can have a good future for my body. Because also, one thing we need to think about is this, right? We all hear about being born again, right? We have more than one body. So say maybe we were our grandparents. Maybe we were our own great-grandparents, right? Usually we're born into the same family by reoccurrence, right? What if you were your own grandparents? Or your great-grandparents or your great-great-grandparents? So this means the way we're eating is affecting our future physical body. Think about that. The way we're eating now is affecting our future physical body that we may have one day again, God willing. We're offered another chance, right? So think about that. Keep that in mind. The way we ate in the past has affected why we have this body karmically, right? Or dharmically as well. Maybe we have a really robust, healthy body, and that's because of what happened in the past. Right? Cause and effect. How we eat is going to affect what's going to happen. So interestingly enough, with these traditional diets that he studied, these 14 different diets, there was a great variety in it, right? It wasn't like everybody was eating the same exact thing in these different parts of the world. No. Some of these traditional people had no plant foods. Some had few animal foods. Some had mostly cooked foods. Some had large amounts of raw food. Some had milk products, some did not. Some had grain, some did not. Some had fruits, some did not. So what was it that made all of these traditional diets healthy diets? What was the factor? What was the common denominator? And that's what Weston Price went to study and to find out. What he found out was the common denominator in all of these diets was that there was 4 times the amount of calcium and minerals in traditional diets than in the modern diet. And there was 10 times the amount of vitamins A, D, and K2 in traditional diets than in modern diets. Now you might be saying, okay, so what do I have to eat to get all those vitamins, right? What do I need to get? Well, that's what I'm going to show you. But that was the common denominator in all of the traditional diets. Okay, the calcium, minerals, and vitamins A, D, and K2. So if we look at vitamin A and we look at what it's good for, we see that it's vital for mineral and protein metabolism, prevents birth defects from happening. It's optimum for the development of infants and children, protects against infection, the production of stress and sex hormones, thyroid function, healthy eyes, skin, and bones. That's a lot of stuff there, right? Vitamin A. Just look at how many things we need vitamin A for, right? Sex hormones. If you have low sexual energy and you're trying to work in your transmutation and you're finding that you have not enough of energy, maybe it has to do with the amount of vitamin A you're getting too, right? So vitamin A gets depleted by stress, infection, fever, heavy exercise, exposure to pesticides, industrial chemicals, and excess protein consumption. but the protein consumption that comes from lean meat and protein powders. So one of the things that is not recommended is to use those protein powders. If you need protein, get it in a natural source because that's already processed. Okay? So look at all the ways vitamin A is depleted. Does anybody here have stress? No, right? No problem. Infections, fevers? I don't know about heavy exercise. Maybe not many of you are doing heavy exercise. But, the rest, exposure to pesticides, industrial chemicals, we have all of that. So you can imagine, even if you're getting vitamin A within your diet, we need to make sure we're getting more of those vitamins in our diet because it's getting depleted so rapidly. Okay? Oh, and vitamin A, by the way, hold on. Vitamin A can be, liver is a great source of vitamin A, eggs, meat, dairy. All of those are good sources, but again, go back to our proteins lecture. You need to get good selection of liver, of eggs. You want to get the best. You don't want to be getting the factory farm stuff. You do not want to be eating a liver of a poor cow from a factory farm, trust me. It's been tortured. It's been given too many chemicals and hormones and antibiotics. You do not want to be eating that. So if you're going to eat liver, because liver, right? Liver purifies. Liver takes all the toxins. You want to make sure that you're getting the best liver, okay? I am going to try liver. I said to my husband this morning, we're going to try some liver. I have stayed away from liver since I had a bad experience when I was a little girl. One day I was at home and I saw meat in the pan, and I thought it was beef, right? So I went to go take a bite, and it was liver. And when you're expecting one thing and you get another, and it was, I don't know about you, but the texture of liver was kind of weird to me. And when I ate it, it was like so mushy. I was like, as a little kid, maybe it's better now. I don't know. But I will try it, and I will find a good way of preparing it, and I will try it because I do want to make sure that I'm feeding my body a diverse set of foods, because if we eat the same things all the time, you're getting the same vitamins and minerals all the time. You're not diversifying. And really, we need to make sure that we get enough of a different set of vitamins and minerals. So the other thing he saw, was vitamin D was necessary, lots of vitamin D. And actually, that's really interesting because if you look at people today, almost every person is deficient in vitamin D. Almost every person. Every person should be trying to get more vitamin D in their bodies because we're all pretty deficient in it. So if we look at what it's good for, it's needed for mineral metabolism, healthy bones and nervous system, muscle tone, again, reproductive health, right? Insulin production, protection against depression, and protection against chronic diseases like cancer and heart disease. If you're somebody who suffers from a lot of depression, one way of helping yourself is by getting more vitamin D into your system. Vitamin D you can also get by being out in the sun, but in order to get the full amount of vitamin D you need every day out in the sun, you need to be naked outside for at least 10 minutes. Okay? Because you need to absorb it through your body. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not going to be standing outside naked outside for 10 minutes every day in this cold. So the reality is we're not getting enough, okay, through the sun. Naturally, if we lived, maybe in California and we were out all the time in this nice balmy weather, we'd be able to get enough of that. But most people aren't spending that much time outside anymore, unfortunately. A lot of these traditional people, they spend a lot of time outside. They were harvesting foods and outside and receiving all of that, so they were able to get it. But most of us are sitting behind desks these days inside. I don't know about you, but I hardly get to see the sun anymore. With the sun going down so quick, I come out of work and it's pitch black at 5 p.m. So, you're lucky if you sneak a peek at the sun these days. And so vitamin K2, that's what he called activator X, that one thing that all the traditional diets had, right? And so what he found was this vitamin K2 plays an important role in growth and facial development, right? So the lack, now you start seeing why the bone structure starts narrowing, right? Because people weren't getting enough of this vitamin K2. Normal reproduction, development of healthy bones and teeth, protects against calcification and inflammation of the arteries, and helps increase learning capacity. Can you see how all of these vitamins, A, D, and K2, are vital for new body, for our body, right? They work, and the thing is, they work synergistically. They all work together. So you've got to make sure that you're getting all of those in proper amounts because they all help each other. In isolation, they're not going to work. They need to work together. And the vital roles of these fat-soluble vitamins, these were all found in the healthy traditional diets because they were eating pasture-fed livestock. Now, this is really important. Remember when we were talking about proteins, we talked about pasture-fed being the best option? The reason that it's the best option is because when the animals are eating from that pasture grazed, from the grass, right, that is infused with a lot of vitamin D. And so they're eating it, and their body is having more vitamin D. And thus, when we eat that meat, we're getting a good source of vitamin D. But now, if you're eating like animals that have never seen this, the sight of the sun and eat only grain-based foods, you're not going to get an animal who has enough vitamin D for you to then feed you that vitamin D. So whenever you go out shopping, make sure you're getting pasture-raised meats, pasture-raised, whatever. The best option is pasture-raised. So if you can see anything else is pasture-raised, if you can see the farms you're buying from and you see the animals eating from the grass, that's your best option. Okay? And that's what he found was that these animals were eating, all of these native populations, all of these traditional populations had that in common, that they were eating from animals that had that. And so a good source of this is pasture butter. And what's interesting about pasture-raised butter is it's a lot more yellow than like regular butter because regular butter is coming from cows that have depleted amounts of anything in their bodies. So when you see pasture-raised butter, the first thing you're going to say is, wow, it's really yellow. Because that's what I said. I was like, this is like really weird yellow. I've never seen butter like this. It's because I wasn't eating good butter. So if you can get good butter, like pasture-raised butter, get that. And eat it. It's actually good for you. You know how they say, don't eat butter, it's going to clog your arteries. We'll get to that myth in a little bit. But it's not true. So, cod liver oil. This is where it gets yummy. All right. So what Dr. Price found was that cod liver oil was a really great way to get those fat-soluble vitamins A and D into your body. Okay, because we don't have, most of our diets don't have enough of those vitamins, having cod liver oil will get that into your system. Nowadays, they have capsules. You don't have to drink it in the spoon. Remember the spoon? Oh, that was nasty. I remember that. Oh, I'll tell you a funny story. My sister one time, I still remember her for this. I was a little girl. She was a bit older than I was. And she said, oh, try this candy. It's delicious. It was a clear little capsule. It looked like a nice gummy bear or something. And I said, sure. She says, but to get the best out of it, you need to bite on it really hard. That you'll get the flavor. So innocently, I took it, and I bit it, and it was cod liver oil. It was not pleasant. But the good thing is it was good for me. So, but it wasn't yummy. So what he found was if you take cod liver oil along with the source of vitamin K, you need to get vitamin K in with this. You can't just take cod liver oil on its own. It won't be as effective. You need to take a good source of vitamin K, such as butter from grass-fed animals, or what he called high vitamin butter oil. And they actually do sell, I was researching, and they actually do sell both. And here, if you go, this is slide 28 that we're talking about. These are the best sources of cod liver oil out there right now. Okay, these are the best ones. And I did see that the first one is available on Amazon, actually. So, and Amazon had also the vitamin K high vitamin butter oil, so has both of them. So if you take both of those on a daily basis, you will get your vitamins A, D, and K that is necessary for you to have a healthy body. Because what this does for you, for a woman who's pregnant, it helps her to create a healthy child, right? And have a healthy body for herself. But as adults, if we take this, what it does is it helps us to build up our immune system, to not be as sick, to have a strong body as well. So that's why it is a good it's good choice for us to have it because, you know, we don't get enough of these vitamins as it is anyway. So another vitamin K source is cheeses from grass-fed animals and duck or goose liver. Oh, along with cod liver oil. I don't know. I'm not too much of that. But I will try it, and I will, you know, see how it tastes. But and I'll see how I feel. But like I said, we've got to experiment with ourselves, because if we don't experiment with our bodies, eventually our bodies will start experimenting on us. And what they do is they start getting sick, right? They start showing signs of illness. So what we need to do is try to keep these bodies as healthy as possible so that we can continue doing our work, so that we don't have to die of these illnesses that are preventable. That's the thing. Most of these illnesses of today are because of how we eat, right? Most of these heart disease and all these problems are because of how we eat. Diabetes, high cholesterol, how we eat. So what we need to do is find the ways that will benefit us to eat. So if we look at this on slide 29, this is very interesting. So what we have here is a slide that compares traditional diets to modern diets. And the diets of the healthy, non-industrialized people contain no refined or denatured foods. They did not have refined sugar, high fructose corn syrup, white flour, canned foods, pasteurized, homogenized, skim, or low-fat milk. They didn't eat any of that stuff. And they also did not have hydrogenated vegetable oils, vegetable powders, artificial vitamins, or toxic additives and colorings. All those things they did not eat, we're eating in our modern diet. If you're eating processed foods, you're eating this. If you're eating fast foods, you're eating this. Okay? All of these things we're eating, and it's not doing us any good. All of the traditional cultures consume some sort of animal food. This is another interesting thing. So for all those vegans out there that are listening, you might have to take a look at your diet, because what was found was every one of these traditional diets did have some sort of animal food, whether it was fish and shellfish, land and waterfowl, land and sea mammals, eggs, milk and milk products, again, remember grass-fed, reptiles and insects. So in one way or another, they were eating some sort of animal protein. Another thing interesting enough was that the whole animal was consumed. Muscle meat, organs, bone, fats, with the organ meats and fats preferred. How many of us never go near the organ meats, right? We just go and we say, I'll have my ribeye, or I'll have my chicken breast, or whatever it is, right? And heart, lungs, you know, we look at the hearts and the kidneys and the livers, and we're like, we don't want to eat that. Meanwhile, there's a lot of nutrition in there. You know, chicken liver pate. Is that good? It is? Okay. You'll have to give me a good recipe. But yeah, they ate the whole animal. They didn't let anything go to waste. Nowadays, we just buy cuts, right? We go to the supermarket and we get a cut of this and a cut of that, and we cut out all the good stuff. So the diets of the traditional people had at least 4 times more minerals and water-soluble vitamins, 10 times more fat-soluble vitamins, the A, D, and K, than the average American diet. Okay? And all the traditional cultures cooked some of their food, but also consumed a portion of their animal foods raw. Growing up, my parents always made steak tartare. You ever have that, right? Raw meat, raw egg, onion, some spices, and we put that on a piece of rye bread, and I liked that. It was good. I mean, I grew up with it. I thought that was normal, you know, and even today, I get the urge for some red meat or for some sashimi. I love my raw fish. Or, you know, nowadays we could also have raw milk, but they also, you know, they consumed some of their food raw. My husband likes to say that I eat like a cat because I like to eat raw stuff, but my body's asking for it, you know, and the good thing is, you know, at first we don't know how to listen to our body, but the more you practice good nutrition, the more your body's going to tell you what it needs. Your body's going to be like, hey, I need this. You know when you eat something and you're like, wow, that did not hit the spot. Do you ever have that? You eat, like it filled the empty stomach, but it didn't hit the spot. You know what that spot is? That spot is your body's craving that you did not listen to. You know, your body is craving something, and because maybe it's not convenient, or because you're a vegetarian, or because you don't eat that, you don't listen. Or maybe you don't even know what it's telling you to eat. But do you ever have a craving that's so strong? And I'm not talking about craving for McDonald's. I'm talking about like a specific craving. Like sometimes my body will say, oh, I really need some dairy today. Like my body craves dairy. Or my body will crave a piece of meat, right? Or my body will crave vegetables. My body craves something. And then you know when you eat and you feel so satisfied, like, oh, that hit the spot. What's the spot? You listen to your body. You hit the spot. You got the craving. Now, 9 times out of 10, you're probably just filling the hole. But that 1 out of 10 times you really feel happy, that's when you know you fed your body. So start trying to listen more to what your body is asking for, because it knows what you need. You don't know what you need. And your brain gets complicated and in the way, and then forget it. We lost the message. But your body has its own system of telling you what you need. Another thing that the traditional diets had was they had a high content of food enzymes and beneficial bacteria from lacto-fermented vegetables, fruits, and beverages, dairy products, meat, and condiments. So, you know the fermented foods? Like, for example, I know the Korean culture has kimchi, right? And actually, nowadays, if you look at kimchi, kimchi is a pickled cabbage, okay? Pickled cabbage. If you look at it, it's considered one of the superfoods because what it does is it puts all the good bacteria, colonizes your gut with good bacteria. So lacto-fermented foods, foods that have been allowed to ferment for some time, provide your gut with good bacteria. If you have a healthy gut, you will have a healthy body. If you have an unhealthy gut, you will have health problems. If you suffer from constipation, if you suffer from problems with your bowels, if you suffer from poor digestion, if you eat certain foods and you have food allergies, it also has to do with the health of your gut. If your gut doesn't have enough good bacteria in there, you will suffer from health problems. Some people swear that the gut is the center of everything. So put some good food into your gut. You know, acidophilus, that's that enzyme. Nowadays they're taking it in pill form, right? Put some good bacteria in your gut. Yeah, that's a good way, but also eating fermented foods is a good way of putting it into there. So there's a lot of fermented foods available these days. Kombucha, has anybody tried kombucha? Yeah? It's a fermented drink. You either love it or you hate it. Tastes like vinegar, sort of. I happen to love it, but some people don't like it, but try it. Maybe you'll like it. Kombucha is a fermented beverage. So there's a lot of, do some research on what are lacto-fermented foods, but sauerkraut, easy. Sauerkraut's a lacto-fermented vegetable. Put some sauerkraut on the side of your plate and eat it with your meal. That'll get a lot of good bacteria in there. Okay. Also, what all of the traditional diets had in common was that seeds, grains, and nuts were soaked, sprouted, fermented, or naturally leavened to neutralize the naturally occurring anti-nutrients in there. There's phytic acid in a lot of these grains, and what phytic acid does is it prevents calcium from being absorbed into your bones, so you want to soak your grains at night. If you're going to cook brown rice for tomorrow, soak your grains. If you're going to cook beans, soak your nuts, let them start to sprout. Because the minute they start to sprout, what happens is you have activated the enzymes. So it's a healthier version of that. Okay? But you need to buy raw nuts in order for that to happen. Because if you get roasted nuts, you're not sprouting anything with a roasted nut. Okay? It's cooked already. So make sure you get raw nuts and start to sprout them. Okay? That provides you with more enzymes. Also, another thing that all of these traditional diets had was they had good fat in their diets. Okay? They had good fat, and they had very little amounts of polyunsaturated fats that just happen to occur in grains, legumes, and nuts, fish, animals, and vegetables naturally. But they did not put polyunsaturated fats into their diet. So when I talk about polyunsaturated fats, I'm talking about fats like vegetable oils. You know how everything is fried in vegetable oil these days? Vegetable oils should not be heated to that high temperature. And so what happens is they create all these free radicals that in turn get us sick. Okay, so we're going to go over what are good fats to cook with in a minute, but just know that anything hydrogenated, unsaturated, all of those are not good choices, and the traditional diets did not have those. What they did have was equal amounts of omega-6 and 3 essential fatty acids available in fish, available in those fish oils. So they did have enough of that. And you know how you hear you've got to get, those good fats in your system to have a healthy heart and all that? They did this through their food. They didn't take supplements. There was not a CVS, like a pharmacy at the corner where they can go, can I get some good omega-3s and 6, please? They didn't have that, They ate their foods. They ate their vitamins, and that's all they had, and they were healthier than we were. We have all of these vitamins, and we're still sick. What's going on? There's got to be something wrong with what we're doing. So also, all traditional cultures they made a broth made out of animal bones. All of that, they had all of that in common. And so these were usually rich in gelatin. They were gelatin-rich broths, right? Because gelatin comes out from the bones. So all of them had that in common. They would make these broths out of bones. So a great way to make a soup is buy a lot of beef bones, boil it, strain out the bones later, and there's your stock. There's your, just add some vegetables in there if you want, or just drink the broth. But there's your stock. That gives all of those traditions had those in common. And also what they all had in common was they made provisions for the health of future generations by providing nutrient-rich animal foods for parents-to-be, for pregnant women, and growing children. All the growing children had certain foods they had to eat, because they knew that was good for them, that would give them a healthy body. That's when your mother gave you that cod liver oil, because she knew that was good for you. She maybe didn't know why, but she knew why it was good for you. Same thing with other foods. They knew that would help us grow strong. And they also taught their young how to be healthy and how to eat healthy foods. Are we doing that? Are we teaching the next generation how to eat healthy? Those of you who have children, show them the benefits of eating healthy, because it's going to affect their next generation and their own bodies and their own health. So now I'm going to go over all the don'ts, okay? The dietary dangers that are out there nowadays. All right, and for those of you who are here at this class live, I have this for you, so you don't have to take notes. I have copies of this, and you can remember all the don'ts. But this, as a result of this study, these are all the things that are recommended not to do in order to have the most optimal body, okay, for yourself and for future generations. Commercially processed foods, don't eat it. All those cookies, cakes, crackers, TV dinners, soft drinks, packaged sauces, all that stuff, if it comes in a package, don't eat it, basically. Okay? If it has more ingredients than you can read, and if you can't say the ingredients, don't buy it. Okay? If a third grader can't read it, you shouldn't be eating it. Avoid all refined sweeteners such as sugar, dextrose, glucose, high fructose corn syrup, and fruit juices. Now, if you read the packages, that's in everything. The high fructose corn syrup is in everything. And they're doing a campaign to make it sound healthier nowadays, by the way. Okay, if you look on TV, oh, corn, it comes from corn. It's great for you. Yeah, it's great if you eat it as corn, but as soon as you start processing it, you take out all the good stuff. You take out the fiber, you take out the vitamins, you leave all the stuff that we shouldn't be eating. Avoid white flour products, and white rice. Why? Because it's been stripped of all the nutrients. All the good stuff's been taken out. Okay? We went over this when we did our grains lecture, so if you want to hear more, learn about it then. Anything white basically is not good for you, except for vegetables. White vegetables, really good for your immune system. But white products, not good for you. Okay? Because they've been stripped of all their nutrition. Avoid all hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated fats and oils. Okay? That causes all the free radicals. And avoid all refined liquid vegetable oils made from soy, corn, safflower, canola, or cottonseed. All of these oils, the way they've been processed and the way they react within our body, do not have positive effects. I know everybody says canola oil is the safest thing to use. It's not. The way that it reacts in our body, it is not a beneficial oil for us to be eating, or especially frying with. Okay. Number 6, do not use polyunsaturated oils for cooking, sautéing, or baking. Polyunsaturated oils are the soybean, soy flour, safflower, canola, and sunflower. Olive oil is actually okay for cooking with, but the other oils are not. Okay. Avoid foods fried in polyunsaturated oils or partially hydrogenated vegetable oils. Number 8 says, do not practice veganism. Okay? Now, I'm just saying, I'm not telling you not to. This is your choice. But what I'm saying, as a result of this study, if based on this study and based on all of these traditional diets, veganism is not the best option for the healthiest body. Okay? You notice it doesn't say vegetarianism, it says veganism. Because with vegetarianism, you still can get some of those animal products into your system. Animal products provide vital nutrients that you can't find in plant foods. They will not act the same way. Okay? Yes, you can say, oh, but there's vitamin A in this, and there's vitamin D in this, and there's vitamin K in this. But the way that it has to be assimilated into your body will not be the same way. Only animal products will give you that. Avoid products containing protein powders because they usually contain carcinogens, okay, formed during processing. So, a lot of people like to put these protein powders in their shakes in the morning to get big and buff. The way that it's processed is not doing you any good. You're better off eating protein in its natural form. Okay, just remember, anything processed is going to be less good for you. It's easy, yes, I know, but it's not easy in the long run on your body. Avoid processed pasteurized milk. We did our dairy lecture last time. Do not consume ultra-pasteurized milk. Milk products, low-fat milk, skim milk, powdered milk, or imitation milk products. All of that is not good for your body. Okay, it's going to do the opposite. Instead of giving you good amounts of calcium, it's going to deplete your bones. Avoid factory farmed eggs, meats, and fish. Don't you see how all of our previous lectures are coming together in this? Right? Like everything we spoke about, it's funny. It's sort of coming together in this one study. That's why when I saw this study, I was like, yes, this makes sense. Avoid highly processed luncheon meats and sausages. Oh, I saw something really interesting on the news. They did a study, and it came out publicly. Usually they don't give you these studies publicly. But they found that luncheon meats, nobody should be consuming luncheon meats. It's that bad for you. It is really bad for your body. The amount of, the carcinogens and all the problems that luncheon meats have, nobody should be eating luncheon meat. That's what they said. Literally, it's bad for everybody. So if you like to have luncheon meats, some of you are suffering right now as you listen to this. What? I can't eat luncheon meats? You can eat it, but don't expect to be feeding your body very well with it. It's really bad for you. Look up on the news. If you go in, Google News, you could look up luncheon meats, and the study will come up. It was just a couple weeks ago, actually. Avoid rancid and improperly prepared seed, nuts, and grains found in granolas, quick rise breads, and extruded breakfast cereals, as they block mineral absorption and cause intestinal distress. Remember the extruded breakfast? Did I give you that talk about the rat experiment? I did, didn't I? Yeah, the extruded grains, where, to make an extruded grain, what they do is they put all these grains into this big grinder and they mush it all up. That's how they make cereals, like Cheerios and all those modern cornflakes and all of that. They make a big mush, and then because of the process of making this grain extruded, the way they have to take it, the product off, they're stripping it of all the nutrients that we actually need. So that's why it always says fortified with 9 essential vitamins right on the box. You think you're getting more vitamins. The reason they're actually doing that is because they've stripped the vitamins through the process of extruding the grain. So when you're eating this, you're actually there's no nutritional value in this. For those of you who missed my rat experiment story, basically it came down that the rats that were being fed cornflakes in water as opposed to cardboard and water, or rat feed, the rats that ate cornflakes and water died the fastest. It had the least amount of nutrition. The cardboard had more nutrition than the cornflakes. So, extruded grains. Go back to oatmeal. Go back to whole oats. That's a good cereal for you. But all of these boxed cereals, I know the cereal companies are going to yell at me now, but avoid canned, sprayed, waxed, and irradiated fruits and vegetables. Avoid genetically modified foods. Okay, we spoke about this. Avoid artificial food additives, especially MSG, hydrolyzed vegetable protein, and aspartame. That's in everything. If you look at gum packets, try to find a gum packet that doesn't have aspartame. It's like in everything. That's NutraSweet. You know, that's what's in NutraSweet. Those are all neurotoxins, and they create problems within our bodies with all the neurons and stuff. Most soups, sauces, and broths have these within as an ingredient. So read your ingredients well. MSG. Ask if you go to, especially an Asian restaurant, say please no MSG because there's plenty of MSG in there. But all of those will cause problems.
They use it even if they don't say it.
Yeah, even if they say they don't, they do because it makes the food taste better. And supposedly it increases your appetite so you want to eat more. That's what supposedly they say. But those are the things to look out for on the labels. Also, individuals sensitive to caffeine and related substances should avoid coffee, tea, and chocolate. You've got to figure out if you're one of those people. I personally cannot drink coffee. I'm hyper as it is. You do not want to see me on caffeine. Okay? It's just too much for me. Avoid aluminum-containing foods such as commercial salt, baking powder, and antacids. Do not use aluminum cookware or deodorants containing aluminum. Check out your deodorants. Think about what you're doing every day. You're taking deodorant that has aluminum in it, which is toxic for our body, and you're putting it under your arm, right? Being absorbed into your body. There are aluminum-free deodorants that you can get. I actually use one that's like a block of salt. It looks like a block of salt, and all you do is wet it a little bit, and it works. It really works. There's natural deodorants out there too. Take a look because all of this is creating toxicity within our body. And aluminum cookware as well. When you're cooking on that, the food is absorbed with the aluminum. Okay, food takes that aluminum into it. Do not drink fluoridated water. We had this debate here at the school. Do not drink it. It's not good for you. It affects your pineal gland, okay, and your other glands. Avoid synthetic vitamins and foods containing them. Avoid distilled liquors, and do not use a microwave oven. Microwave oven. Do you realize we're the guinea pigs for this experiment? The microwave oven. When it came out, they didn't do many studies on the microwave oven. They were just like, yeah, it's safe, it's good. No, you know, they did a couple experiments, and they, you know, when they have a new product, it goes out there. But what microwave ovens actually do, you know, when you heat something normally, like on fire, how does it heat it? From the outside in, right? Slowly from the outside, and it comes to the inside. Microwaves go the opposite. They go from the inside out. And the way that they do it kills off a lot of those vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that were actually in the food. So use it as little as possible. You know what they say to, like, you know when you have a chopping board, like a wooden chopping board, they tell you to stick it in the microwave, or a sponge, you know, like a sponge you wash dishes with. They tell you to actually put it in the microwave for a minute because it'll kill off all the things that are on it, bacteria and stuff. So my question is this: if it's killing those bacteria, what's it doing to my food? Now I know some of you are sitting there going, what? Don't use the microwave. How am I going to heat up my food? Right? I know I did. I was like, oh, I actually put it in a pan. I put it in the pan and I heated it up and it worked. So it is still possible to do it that way. But it was kind of interesting because for so long I've been using the microwave. Nuke it for a minute. Anything called nuking it, does that not sound good? Right? Like deep down something tells you nuking it does not sound right? Yeah. So, the bottom line, as Hippocrates said, let food be thy medicine, right? That's what it comes down to, right? He was the father of modern medicine, and he used food to heal people, to heal himself. So that's what we need to come back to. I think we're seeing now at this point in our history that modern ways of living is not working out. If it were, we'd be healthier, and instead we're sicker. It seems our generation, a couple of generations ago, were healthier than we were, and they didn't have all this modern technology. So how was it that they were healthier? So what we're seeing is we need to come back to basics. And that's really what I want to talk about now, is what you should be doing for yourselves. Okay? So I like this because this is really a culmination of the past lectures that we've done. And it's a really good, this is a handout for all of you here as well. So back to basics. Eat whole, unprocessed foods. Whole foods. Who remembers what the definition of a whole food is? Anybody? Yes. What's a whole food?
One ingredient.
One ingredient. If it has one ingredient and that ingredient is itself, it's a whole food. An apple is an apple is an apple. An apple has nothing else. Right? A banana is a banana, nothing else. Going back, barley is barley, nothing else. Unprocessed foods. If it has already one more ingredient, it's been processed. Okay? Eat beef, lamb, game, organ meats, poultry, and eggs from pasture-fed animals. Okay? Eat wild fish, not farm-raised, and shellfish from unpolluted waters. Now, I know we had this debate when we went over fish, what fish were safe and what fish were not safe. Wild is always going to be the preferable one, but nowadays fish is getting weird, I know, but still, usually wild will be a better alternative than farmed because of the farming practices. Now, here's the best one. Love number 4. For years, I've been doing the opposite of number 4. Eat full-fat milk products. What? Whole milk? Not low-fat or skim? For years, I've been told that I should be eating low-fat or skim milk. Actually, full fat from pasture-fed cows, preferably raw or fermented, okay, such as raw milk, whole yogurt, kefir, cultured butter, whole raw cheeses, fresh sour cream. And this is interesting. If it's imported cheese and it says milk or fresh milk on the label, that means it's raw. So look for that as an indicator. Last week, one of our students was nice enough to bring a gallon of raw milk, and I was so excited because, I really don't drink milk anymore because I used to think milk wasn't good for me and all this because pasteurized is not a good option, and I can't find raw milk here in New York. So I had a glass, and it tasted so good to me. It was a full-fat glass of raw milk. Okay, some of you are going to say, I hate milk, I don't want to drink it, but I loved milk. I grew up drinking milk. And for me, it was like a comfort, and it felt good in my body. It fed me. Do you know when I said it hit the spot? It hit the spot. So go back to that. I'm not saying you have to drink it. If you don't like milk, don't drink milk. Find other ways of getting, your vitamins. That's fine. But if you are a milk lover or a dairy lover, don't skimp on it. Go for the full fat. You need that fat. That's the good fat. Okay? Use animal fats, especially butter, liberally. Love that one too, because if anybody knows me, they know I love my butter, right? Butter, but good butter. Back to the butter. Good butter. Get pasture raised, get the organic, get the good butter. Pasture would be the best one. Okay? Again, it has the good fats in there for you. Now, use traditional vegetable oils only. Extra virgin olive oil, expeller pressed sesame oil, small amounts of expeller expressed flax oil, and tropical oils, coconut oil, palm, and palm kernel oils. Okay? Those are the best options for you with the oils. Cod liver oil. Take it regularly, at least 10,000 IUs, vitamin A, and 1,000 IUs vitamin D per day. This will make sure that you get enough of those vitamins that we're lacking. Eat fresh fruits and vegetables, preferably organic, in salads, light soups, or lightly steamed with butter. I did this yesterday. I lightly steamed some vegetables, put some butter and a little bit of salt. They were delicious. That's all it took was a little butter and salt. Use whole grains, legumes, and nuts that have been prepared by soaking, sprouting, or sour leavening to neutralize the phytic acid, enzyme inhibitors, and other anti-nutrients. Okay, eat those lacto-fermented vegetables and fruits that we spoke about, kombucha or the kimchi, sauerkraut. Prepare homemade meat stocks from the bones, okay, of chicken, beef, lambs, and fish, and use those in stews and sauces. Use those as your broths, as your base. You know how sometimes it says, oh, put a cup of chicken broth. Have some of this kind of broth on hand. Freeze it in small bags, and you can have it ready for yourself when you need it. Use filtered water for cooking and drinking. This is a really big one, too, and I promised you all that I would do a lecture on water, and I will. So use unrefined salt and a variety of herbs and spices to stimulate your appetite. Experiment with salts. I like to try different salts. I don't get the mainstream salt. I don't get the one that says iodized. I don't get that one. I get the one that's, I do use kosher salt, or I do use some other salts. Like I do try some sea salts, although I know the master said don't use sea salt because it's lunar. But I find, like in sparingly, I don't find I have a problem with it. So you be your judge there. Make your own salad dressing. You know the salad dressing that comes in a bottle? Read the ingredients. It's all stuff you don't want in your body. Simple salad dressing. Anybody here make their own salad dressing? Yes? Couple? Yeah? Okay. Easy. All you need to do, put some raw vinegar. I love apple cider vinegar, and that's a great health benefit for you. Get some apple cider vinegar. Get some olive oil. And if you want some flaxseed oil, you can put some salt. You can put some Dijon mustard, a little bit of honey. That's my favorite. Honey, some flaxseed oil or olive oil, Dijon mustard, and apple cider vinegar. Shake it all up. Put it on your salad. It's delicious. Salad dressings are so easy to make. You're going to wonder, why the heck have I been buying salad dressing all these years? Because it's really easy. Really easy. And they're delicious. They're much better than the ones you can buy in the bottle. And use natural sweeteners, okay? Raw honey, and it says in moderation. Raw honey, maple syrup, maple sugar, date sugar, dehydrated cane sugar juice, also known as rapadura, and stevia powder. So those are all good options for sweetening, okay? All right, and finally, use only unpasteurized wine or beer in moderation. Cook only in stainless steel, cast iron, glass, or good quality enamel pots and pans. Okay? And use only natural food-based supplements. So what they're saying is don't go out and, instead of getting supplements that, you know, a pill for this and a pill for that, use food-based supplements instead. Get plenty of sleep, exercise, and natural light. Natural light is hard these days, so I go out at lunchtime to get some. And think positive thoughts and practice forgiveness. Right? Isn't that just really a nice summary of what we should be doing? Now, I know it's a lot, and you might be looking at us going, how the heck am I going to do all that? You don't have to do everything in one shot. Pick a couple of things. Pick one thing that you're going to change. Pick one thing. I'm not saying go home and throw out your microwave, okay? And I'm not saying go home and, you know, just take one step at a time. That's how I do it. This has taken me years to develop. And it's still evolving. I'm still learning things, and I'm still practicing, and I'm still trying to become healthier. What I have gone away from is having to use medication. I'm not on any kind of medication. I haven't been on an antibiotic in maybe 25 years. Okay? I mean, I definitely have gotten away from, I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't do drugs. You know, all those things are slowly, I try to eat as best as I could, but it's like a process, right? When you're a teenager, you think doing all those things are good for you and fun. So you got to sort of learn to get away from what we know isn't good for us and create a better body, because remember, your future depends on what you do today. And I'm not only talking about eating, I'm talking about your actions, your thoughts, your feelings. Everything's going to create a consequence within you. So how your future will be is really up to you. If you want a healthy, strong body, or do you want to be sickly and in a hospital? We're all going to get there one day. Hello, we're all, well, not all of us. Some of us will die before we get old, but you know what I mean? Like, our fate is that one day. And we will all perish one day. We all die. That's just nature, right? But how we take that ride is up to us. And so that's why I'm trying to give this to you and to be able to work on yourself spiritually. So just a nice little summary if you're confused about what fat is good and what fat is not good. For cooking, butter is great. Tallow and suet from beef and lamb. Chicken, goose, and duck fat. You could actually make that, make your own, or just, they actually sell goose fat and duck fat. Yeah. Coconut palm and palm kernel oil. So those are your cooking, your best oils for cooking. Those are the ones that will not release free radicals. That will be a good option for you. For salads, so using raw, which oils are best on salads is extra virgin olive oil, also good for cooking, expeller pressed sesame and peanut oils, and expeller pressed flax oil in small amounts. Okay, so those are your salad options. And then for fat-soluble vitamins, fish liver oil, such as cod liver oil. Okay? So that's a nice little summary of what fats we should be doing. And just stay away from those bad fats, okay? And this is really margarine. I don't know what even margarine is. Don't eat it, okay? It's not good for you. I can't believe it's not butter. Then what the heck is it, I like to say, okay? Don't eat it. Anything that, okay, it's not real food. Butter is butter is butter. I can't believe it's not butter is I don't know what, okay? So don't eat it. Anything hydrogenated and partially hydrogenated. And if you start reading labels, you're going to see that everywhere. So start becoming aware of what's in those packages you are eating. And soy, corn, safflower, cottonseed, and canola. And fats and oils, vegetable oils heated to high temperatures, they're not good. So if you're going to fry something, fry it in one of the good fats that we talked about. Okay? So now some of you may be sitting there going, but I've heard too much of this fat is going to give me, problems and cholesterol and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so let's look at myth. Slide 41. There's the myth that says heart disease in America is caused by consumption of cholesterol and saturated fat from animal products. We've all heard this, right? Don't eat eggs, high cholesterol. Don't eat beef, high cholesterol. Don't eat this, high cholesterol. Well, the truth is, during the period of rapid increase of heart disease, which was from the 20s to the 60s, Americans started to consume less animal fat and actually more hydrogenated and industrially processed vegetable fats. So actually, they stopped eating the animal fats and started eating the bad fats that we just spoke about. And what happened? Cholesterol and saturated, fat, more heart disease started to happen. Okay, so actually, you can see there's something related to that, right? And nowadays we have more problems with cholesterol. And what did they tell you? Take this pill; it'll lower it. Eat whatever you want. That's it. It's a pill. The secret's in the pill. Okay, if any of us know that the secret is not in the pill, there's no magic pill. There's, that pill has 20 side effects that are worse than the initial problem to begin with. So, my suggestion, I'm not saying don't take pills. If you're on pills to keep you living, you have to consider that. But what I'm saying is certain things are manageable without pills, okay? So you need to figure that out. I was telling you, I was working with a client who was on 5, 6 different medications. By helping him lose weight, by helping him eat better, he got off all of those medications. Okay? So by changing your diet, by changing your way of life, you're going to be able to minimize that. Another myth, vegetarians live longer. Well, this is slightly true for men. Non-vegetarian men as opposed to vegetarian men, they live a little bit slightly, 0.93% versus 0.89%. But with women, actually, vegetarian women lived less than non-vegetarian women. So that's and a big difference, 0.86% versus 0.54%. So in women, that was a big difference. So whatever the reason is, the way that we're made up, the proteins we need or whatever, in women, it was significantly different that vegetarian women lived less longer than non-vegetarians. So something to look into. Another myth is that animal fats cause cancer and heart disease. Truth is that animal fats contain many nutrients that protect against cancer and heart disease. And elevated rates of cancer and heart disease are associated with large consumptions of vegetable oil. So, stuff to experiment with, I tell you. Another myth, Americans do not consume enough essential fatty acids. The truth is that Americans consume far too much of only one kind, okay? And that's the one that's in polyunsaturated vegetable oils, or the canola oils and all those things we were just talking about. But they don't get enough of the good oils, the omega-3s, which are found in fish, fish oil, eggs from pasture-fed chickens, dark green vegetables, and herbs, flaxseed, chia, nuts, walnuts, whole grains. So yes, they're getting a lot of those polyunsaturated fats, but they're not getting... Look at all the omega-3 foods. Those are all the really whole good foods. We're not getting a lot of that. Okay, so yes, we're getting French fries from the fast food restaurant that have been fried in polyunsaturated oil, but we're not getting green leafy vegetables and pasture-fed chicken, which is providing us with the oils that we really need. So, I just told you a lot of information. In conclusion, what do you get? I'm going to make it simple. I put it only in what? One sentence. Choose traditional whole foods that are organically grown, humanely raised, minimally processed, and above all, not deprived of their vital lipid component, the good fats. Lipid component is the good fats. If we follow these basic principles, we will be feeding our bodies the way that the traditional cultures have for thousands of years. Thousands of years. We are the experimental guinea pigs for this new, last few generations. And as we see, it's not doing us any good. It's making us unhealthier. So what I always encourage every person to do is to experiment for themselves. Every body, and I'm talking about every person's body, is its own laboratory where you need to find what works in your body. So like I said, I'm going to try a few things that I saw on that list that I still wasn't doing. Maybe some things I want to continue, maybe some things I won't. If you don't like raw milk, don't drink it. If you don't like liver, which I don't know, I'm going to try it. And I might find I like it, right? But I will put in some cod liver oil into my diet. That's doable. Find what's doable and do it. But if you just sit here and listen, oh yeah, that was a good lecture on what I should do and what I shouldn't do. That was, yeah. And then you go home and you just go have a big burger from the fast food restaurant, it's going to catch up to you. It will. Because how long can your body take that? One way or another, your body will rebel. And usually the way it rebels is how? Heart attack, illness, diabetes, heart disease, high cholesterol. Some way it's going to tell you, what are you putting into me? Okay, so sooner or later your body's going to give in and let you know that. Whether you want it to be told in a harsh way or whether you want to do it when you still have time is up to you. But I'm telling you, for the work that we all need to do or we want to do spiritually, we need to have a healthy temple. And that healthy temple starts with eating healthy foods. Okay? Thinking healthy thoughts, breathing, good air, trying to make the most of what we are in right now. We live in the middle of New York City, for those of us who are here right now, right? And this is a harsh environment. There are things being thrown at us in every direction. So we have to be aware of what is going in to give ourselves, a little boost to help ourselves a bit. Because we're getting bombarded. Not only, and I'm not only talking about the foods, the air, the pollution, I'm talking about the impressions, right? The negativity, all of this energy that's around us. We've got to try and create some kind of refuge for ourselves where we can find that peace within so we could work on ourselves, right? So this is just the first way. This is really the foundation. This is Martha at work, right, within you. And so you've got to figure out how to help out Martha too so that you can continue on this path. Because you don't want to die of a heart attack next year because you've been, abusing your body for the last 40 years. Because then you have to go through the whole thing of being born again and going through teenage year and high school. You don't want to do that again. I don't, at least. Really, this is a gift from God. Let's try and do the most work we can in this lifetime. So start with what you have, work with this body that you have, and the other bodies will come, right? So I just wanted to show you a little bit about this information that I shared with you today. Can be found on the Weston A. Price Foundation website. Really, it's truly there's so much knowledge there. They're a nonprofit organization. They don't get any money from like corporate, sponsors and the dairy industry and all this. The beauty of this is their mission is just to teach people how to eat more nutritionally. And really, that's what my mission is too, is to just try and teach all of you who are listening to just try and make the most of what you have in front of you as well. So I encourage you to take a look at what they have to offer. There's some great resources. They also provide a great list of where you can find raw milk and pasture-fed meats. They're just a really fabulous resource. I want to tell you just one quick story before we end this. I was in contact with a woman who came to one of our retreats. If she's listening, I'm not going to say her name, but she did come, and she was a woman in her 40s, and she had remarried, and she wanted to have another child. The husband wanted to have a child. He wasn't Gnostic, she was Gnostic, and but she was older. She was in her mid-40s already, and getting pregnant wasn't that easy, right? It's not that easy. And so she actually did. She went and she followed, she found out information about the Weston A. Price Foundation. She started following their diet. She started following their principles. And I am happy to report that she had her baby, healthy baby boy, and beautiful, strong body, healthy. She followed these principles, both of them did. And and she's in her late 40s now, and she has a healthy boy. So, no fertility treatments, none of that. She just changed the way she was eating, and her husband was eating, the two of them. And, she was able to have that. And in an age that it's not so easy to have, So it does work, too, to just looking at that end of it, right? To create another human being, you need to feed your own body, And if you look at women who are anorexic, or their fat levels are so low on their bodies, what happens to them? They stop having their periods, right? A lot of athletes have this too, because their body fat gets so low that they stop having their periods, right? So right there's a direct correlation, right, between the amount of good fat on your body and your ability to reproduce. For so long, fat has been like, don't eat fat, it's bad for you. But no, eat the good fat that's good for you, and don't eat the bad fat that's bad for you. That's the message. We've been getting so many mixed messages. And unfortunately, most of what people are eating in restaurants and fast food restaurants are all the bad fats. So we just have to be one step smarter, ahead of the game and put the good stuff in our bodies. So a few resources I just want to mention for this lecture. If you missed any of the previous Healthy Spirituality lectures, you can find them at gnosticradio.org. Also, there's the link to the Weston A. Price Foundation, and it's a nice beginner's tour as well. So their website is huge, so it's a nice place to start. The information that I got about this study could be found in Weston A. Price's book, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. And also, a great book that I picked up myself that I wanted to share with you guys was Sally Fallon's book called Nourishing Traditions, the cookbook that challenges politically correct nutrition and the diet dictocrats. Fabulous book, has recipes in here too, tells you why the stuff is good and what it does for your body. I love it. It's definitely become a favorite of mine. So I would recommend that as well. After this lecture, I'm going to show a short clip on YouTube. I'm just going to show you a little bit about about the study that was done, so you can get a nice little summary of it all. And you can find, for those of you who are listening online, you can find it on YouTube and just go under Weston A. Price Foundation, and you'll see the video come up. So I'll take any questions that anybody has right now.
Organic cold cuts or any better?
No. Question was, are organic cold cuts any better? Organic luncheon meats? No. It's just the way that the food is processed. It's still processed. Do you know what I mean? If you really love luncheon meats, instead of a luncheon meat, like if you say, like I love turkey breast, right? But I'll buy a whole turkey breast and cook it. You know what I mean? And then you have it. But luncheon meats, just the way that they're prepared and the way that they're treated, it's just not a good option for you. I know you're suffering right now.
How about like a pastrami?
No pastrami.
A cut of pastrami, the whole thing.
It's the way it's been processed and what's added to it. Look, I'm not saying don't ever have a piece of pastrami again. But what I'm saying is, if you eat pastrami once a week, that's a little too much. I would say, do it as a treat, maybe once every 6 months. Every New Yorker here is suffering right now. What I'm saying is, okay, again, the crowding out principle. I think I'd reviewed this with you guys before, but the crowding out principle is this. Start incorporating good things, add good things, and the rest is going to get crowded out. If you start adding some of the good foods, you're not going to have space or need for all those other foods. So, I used to be the biggest coffee drinker around. Loved it. Had every gadget, had every type of coffee, loved my coffee. But once I started incorporating green smoothies into my diet, I didn't want coffee anymore. I naturally crowded it out. It was like it was like medicine to me. I was drinking coffee going, why am I drinking this? I'm not even enjoying it anymore. But I crowded it out. It's not like I decided, that's it, I'm not drinking coffee. No. Incorporating good food. There are foods that I used to eat before all the time that I don't eat anymore because I've just started putting in other foods. So it is possible to change that. You don't need pastrami every day or every week. Okay? It's not, at first it'll be difficult because you'll think, how could I live without it? Whatever your favorite food is. But I'm not saying to live without it forever. Do the 90-10 rule. That's what I do. 90% of the time I do really good and 10% I give myself what I want. But if 90% of the time you're doing good, that's a lot of time that you're doing really good for yourself. And 10%, we're not saying be perfect. I'm not preaching here telling you that I will never eat a slice of pastrami again. Or whatever it is. No. But trust me, I'm not going to eat it that often. So I like to follow the 90-10 rule personally.
Is organic soy milk okay?
Organic soy milk from the point of view, is it better than conventional soy milk? Yes. But don't only rely on soy being your only source of milk. I would mix that up with rice milk, almond milk, nut milks, raw milk. There's a lot on the Weston A. Price Foundation about soy, actually, and they don't recommend it. Like I said, I'm not going to say stop it completely, but I would say try incorporating other types of milk as well. Don't make that your only type of milk.
You might recommend a vitamin D supplement, or is that the cod oil?
Yeah, if you take that cod liver oil with that vitamin K supplement, that you'll get everything you need in your A, D, and K too. Mm-hmm.
What are some good books that we can buy, that we can use to change our eating habits? And what can the Gnostic store put them on there?
Okay. Question is, what are some good recommendations for books that can help us change our eating? And can the Gnostic store put them in the store? Well, I say yes, we could definitely put them in the store. I would, like I said, the book that I just recommended by Sally Fallon is a great book. Green for Life is a fabulous book by Victoria Butenko. There, it teaches you how to incorporate more greens into your diet and make smoothies. Love my smoothies. If anybody here doesn't know what a green smoothie is, it's basically fruits with green vegetables, blended up in a high-speed blender, and then you drink it. Oh, it's good. I'll make it for everybody next lecture, okay? Really good, and that's really nourishing, cleansing, great for the body. More books. What I'll do is I'll take a look at my library, and I will add some books onto our website. Okay, so I'll add some more books. But those 2 books are a great start right there.
How about tofurkey?
Tofurkey. Okay, how about tofurkey? Yeah, for those of you who don't know what a tofurkey is, it's a turkey that's made out of tofu that's made to look sort of like a turkey, but really doesn't. Sort of looks like this blob of tofu, brown tofu. Tofu, I wouldn't. I mean, tofu's good, but if tofu's your only source of protein, then I would say there's a problem because that's soy-based protein only. I would try to widen my choices of of protein. I'm thinking of the tofurkey. My niece is vegetarian, and one Thanksgiving, we got the tofurkey for her, and she did not like it. She did not eat it. It's kind of a weird thing, but if you like it and you're only eating it, say, around Thanksgiving, and you like it because you get to sit down with your family and they're eating their real turkey and you want it, have it. I mean, don't make it your only source of protein. You know, fermented soy is a good option, okay? So, but make sure it's organic. So if you get it in the form of soybean paste or soy sauce. Tofu is fine in moderation as well. Like I said, I want to make that my only protein source. But enjoy your tofurkey. Don't eat it all the time, though. Yes?
You talked about avoiding fruit juices.
Yeah.
But we also see studies that say, like, cranberry juice is good for your kidneys, or even Sally Fallon Morell recommended the drinking of grape juice.
Yes. But what kind is the question. If you go onto the supermarket shelf and pick up what says fruit juice, and you look at what it is, most of them have added sugar, added high fructose corn syrup. Some will say 100% juice. If you want to make sure something is 100% juice, make it yourself. So when I drink grape juice, I buy the grapes, I blend up the grapes, I strain the grapes, and then I drink the juice. That's different. But what's processed, do you ever see what, like, apple juice looks like? Why doesn't the apple juice that I make look like the apple juice that I see in the stores?
Because you're not good at it?
Because I'm not good at it? Maybe. But it, to me, looks like just this yellow liquid. But if you make apple juice, do the experiment. Make your own apple juice and see what it comes out like. What I'm saying is there's so much processing to make it look clean and clear and beautiful. You know? So, it's not because I'm not good at it. I'm going to make some for you just for that reason, okay? Yes?
Raw milk, for people who are lactose intolerant,
Yeah.
do their body respond?
Yeah, most people who are lactose intolerant could actually tolerate raw milk. Because the reason...
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry, here's...
tried it this week.
Okay.
It didn't bother me.
Wait, excuse me, one at a time. So you tried it and what happened?
It doesn't bother me.
It doesn't bother you?
I don't get any gas.
Okay, so we have a student here who is lactose intolerant usually.
Not completely, I'm partially.
He's partially lactose intolerant, but if you would drink normal milk, would you have a reaction?
Yeah, if later that day, I just...
No, I'm saying if you had a glass of regular milk, you would get gassy. Okay, so he'd get gassy, but with the raw milk, he didn't have any kind of reaction.
No, I don't drink for a few days, too.
Yeah, I noticed the same thing. I know some people who are lactose intolerant, but they can handle raw milk. And the reason that you can is because it's not processed. The reason a lot of people are lactose intolerant is because of the enzymes that are in the milk as a result of the processing. But with the raw milk, you have all the good enzymes that are helping you out. So most of the people who they can handle it. But you've got to experiment that with yourself. Just get some and start with a little bit. So when, I just took a big glass last week because I was just like, yeah, okay, and I was fine. But if you are lactose intolerant, start with a quarter cup of it and just sip it, see how the reaction is in your body. What you have to do is also build up your immunity. A lot of people, because it has so many vitamins and enzymes, some people aren't even used to all of that live food, that they need time to like slowly, gradually get used to it. So there's more. If you want to learn more about the raw milk, actually that's one of my reference on realmilk.com, Campaign for Real Milk. You can find out a lot more information about real milk and where you can find it on that spot there. But most people are okay on it. Yes?
What do you think about the canned sardines or tuna?
Yeah, canned foods, that was one of the foods that were the modern foods that were introduced that started to create these illnesses within weakening the constitution. Canned foods is basically poison for your body because of the way that they're hermetically sealed. And it just leaks into the food. I know it's convenient, but it's, what I do with tuna, I love tuna, but I buy it in a jar. It's more expensive, but you get it in a jar as opposed to a can. I love sardines too. So sometimes I sneak a can of sardines when my husband's not looking because he'll kill me if he sees me eating it. Or I make my own sardines, So a lot of times I'll make my own sardines. Oh, that's the next lecture. Yeah. Everyone's laughing because I just went to the next slide. And the next slide is this big guy eating a 4-decker burger, and it's huge. And yeah, that's the next lecture. But as you see, portions are out of control as well. So, yeah. Sorry about that. Yes?
Why do you not recommend the sea salt? I mean, because now that's the craze.
Yes.
It's supposed to be so much healthier than
Yeah.
iodized.
In one of the master's books, he says that sea salt is a lunar food, and so it'll create more lunar atoms within us, and so that we shouldn't eat it. That's what one of my colleagues said, and I know I like it too. I have Hawaiian sea salt, I have Peruvian sea salt, I have Himalayan sea salt, and I personally don't find a problem using it. So I guess you have to see if in you. Do you feel any negative reactions as a result? Do you feel more like, the lunar atoms are more activated within you? Do you feel more egoic as a result? You sort of have to experiment that with yourself. But that was something, do you know which book that was located in? About the sea salt?
Book of Medicine, I believe.
Book of Medicine. So we'll take a look. I'll research it too, because it's been on my mind as well. But yeah, I'll take a look for you. Yes?
With regard to cod liver oil, to introduce it to children, other than physical force, because my youngest is 3. I took it as a child. And
Yes.
I was threatened. And I took it. But are the pills small enough for them
Yeah.
to take it?
The pills are small. Those should be fine. The question is about cod liver oil. How do you get children to take it? Try the little pills. That's why I thought it was candy.
And in terms of what is necessary for the body, is there a way, is it on the label itself?
Yeah, this should be right on the label. And also, I showed you some good choices of the cod liver oil. So on there, I believe, I ordered it myself, so I can tell you. But they do tell you how much you need. Take a look at it. Also on the Weston Price Foundation, they tell you exactly how much you should be taking. So, but I'm sure right on the label it'll tell you, because this is what they recommend as well. So, you're welcome.
Starting at what age?
Actually, a young age. You can start them very young with the cod liver oil. If I'm not mistaken, I was reading about it yesterday, and I don't want to misinform. It is on the website, but it is I was very surprised. I actually sent you the link. So you have it in your link. But it's very young, actually. I was quite surprised by the age. Do you remember when your mom started giving it to you?
I would have been about 2.
2. Okay, well, the mom gave it to her about 2. Forever? You came out of the womb and she shoved the spoon in your mouth. Okay, yeah, I believe it's very young. I don't want to misquote myself right here, but it was very young. But just take a look on the Weston Price Foundation. They have a whole thing on cod liver oil and how much to take and how young and all that. Yes.
Another oil, and I don't know the difference, was castor oil.
Yeah,
So,
castor oil. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the makeup of castor oil is, but the cod liver, because it's a fermented liver, really has all of the vitamins that we're lacking. So, but yeah, castor oil. I did see that a lot too. Yeah.
The name of the book is Treatise of Sexual Alchemy.
Oh, thank you. Okay, Treatise of Sexual Alchemy talks about salt.
The Master talks about the 12 salts.
The 12 salts. Perfect. Thank you to that listener. Very efficient.
What elements would you recommend for a young male individual who, due to his past actions, is now paying his karma and is struggling with depression and low energy?
Okay, so what advice would I give a young man who's struggling with depression and low energy? Well,
In particularly, loss of appetite.
loss of appetite. Yeah, that was one of the side effects. Did you see with the vitamins, specifically vitamins A, D, and K2, that depression is one of them. When you have a lack of those vitamins, especially vitamin D, you're going to have depression, low energy. So I would recommend that you start following some of these principles that we went over today and incorporate some cod liver oil with that good butter that we spoke about as well. And you could, Amazon sells it right on there. If you look at that first one that I recommended, Green Pasture Products, Blue Ice High Vitamin Fermented Cod Liver Oil, they recommend also that good butter fat oil with it. If you take both of those, I'd say you're probably going to start incorporating good fats into your body, which are going to give you an overall boost in those vitamins you're lacking. Because it sounds like I mean, I don't know what's going on personally in your life, but you have to look at how you're eating too. Are you sleeping enough? You know, what's going on in your life as well? When we think about, like, this is a great question to exemplify how we have to look at somebody's whole life to really see what's going on, right? And that's the beauty of holistic nutrition, is we look at all those aspects. We don't just say, well, you just need that and that's it, you'll be cured. It's not like that. You know, are you going through a hard time in your life right now? Did you just come out of a relationship? Are you seeking one and you feel lonely? Are you happy in your, in your current status? You've got to look at like all of these things in order to see whether or not you're okay. Yes? What does that mean? Does that mean I have to stop talking?
Yes.
Why? Okay. Yeah, we could keep going. If it stopped recording, that's okay. Don't worry about it.
All right.
Yeah. So, it's 12. Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
I could ask you afterwards.
Okay. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, it's about iodized salt. I know they took iodine out of salt. Is that good or bad?
I think at one point people were low on iodine, and that's why they added iodine to the salt. I think if you're eating a well-balanced diet, you're not going to lack for that. It was at a time they did it when people didn't have all the nutrition. So just take a look at your diet. You need to be the judge of how good your diet is and how balanced it is. So, but I don't use iodized salt. So, all right. And all these recommendations I've given, I'm not telling, like I said, these are recommendations. You need to figure out what works for you. Study more for yourself and take a look at your own diet. Make small changes, and every little change is going to help. Okay? Just one step at a time. By 50 years from now, you'll be in good shape. All right. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Thank you.
The presentation of this lecture was made possible by donations from listeners like you. Help Gnostic Radio to help others. Make a donation by visiting gnosticradio.org. For questions and deeper understanding of this lecture, We invite you to explore the wide variety of resources available on our websites. Thank you for your support. May all beings be happy.